this video, I'm going to show you how to find the components of a vector being given the initial and the terminal points or order pairs for that vector. So, for example, let's say that the initial point is at 2, 3, and let's say the terminal point is at 5, 7. So if you have small numbers like that, you could just plot the points. So 2, 3 is our initial point, and 5, 7 is the terminal point. So this vector right here is the one that we're wanting to find the component form of. So if you remember from my other videos, the components are the x and the y. So it's this horizontal distance for the x component and this vertical distance for the y component. So if you have a graph and you can plot the points, you can just count 1, 2, 3 is the x component, and 1, 2, 3, 4 is the y component. So 3, 4, those little pointy parenthesis bracket things, whatever they're called, they that's the component form for this vector. Now if we had another example, let's say our starting point is at, I don't know, let's just say 2, 3 again. But this time our ending point is at -2, -1. Well, we could still look at this visually. So at 2, 3, this is our starting point or our initial point, and our terminal point is at -2, -1. So this vector right here is the vector I want to find the components of. So from here to there, our x component, and then our y component. So again, we can count our boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the x component, and 1, 2, 3, 4 for the y component. But if you notice, this time, from the starting point to the ending point, we went left. Well, if you think about the x-axis, if you're moving towards the left, you're going in the negative direction. So your x component is actually negative this time. Same with the y. This time we're going down to get to that terminal point there. So our y component is also going to be negative, because if you think about that y-axis, up is positive, down is negative. So -4 would be the correct component form for this particular vector. So now the question is, well, what if we have decimals, or what if we have really big numbers and we can't just draw and count the boxes? How are we going to find these components just by being given these values here? Well, if we're finding the distance between these two x values from 2 to 5, the distance is 3. So if you notice, we just take the second x value and subtract the first one from it. So to get the 3, we did 5 minus 2, which was the second x value minus the first x value. To get this y component, it was 4. And if you compare 3 and 7 here, 7 minus 3 gives us 4, right? So that's taking the second y value and subtracting the first y value from it. So this is how you can find the component form algebraically without having to draw the picture. So to find the x component, you just subtract the x coordinates. To get the y component, you just subtract the y coordinates. So let's try one without drawing it. So what if we had our initial point at 5.4 and -2.1, and then we had our terminal point at -2.3 and positive, I don't know, 7.2. So we just said to find the component form, we're going to subtract the x values to get the horizontal or the x component. We're going to subtract the y values to get that vertical or that y component. So since this was the initial point, that's my x1 and my y1. My terminal point is my x2 and my y2. So now you can easily see that we can just plug in negative 2.3 minus 5.4 is going to give us that x component. And then for the y component, 7.2 minus, be careful, a negative 2.1 is going to give us that y component. So if we type it in, negative 2.3 minus 5.4, we get an x component of negative 7.7. And then if we do 7.2 minus a negative 2.1, we get a positive 9.3. So this is the component form for the vector that starts at this order pair and ends at that order pair.